Welcome back to the Fitness League, helping busy humans build strong bodies, sharper minds, and better lives. Join us each week as we cut through the noise, challenge the norms, and empower you to train smarter and live stronger. Today's episode is one we've been waiting to have for a while, because when it comes to health, most people focus on the physical, a few go deep into the mental, but not nearly enough talk about the spiritual. And yet, when you look at the research, when you really dig into the data, the connection between faith, spirituality, and long-term health is actually undeniable. From increased longevity to better stress resilience to stronger social support, the numbers tell a powerful story, but so do our own lives. So in this episode, we're exploring both. We'll break down the science, how practices like prayer, meditation, belief systems actually affect your brain, your behavior, and your body. Then we'll open up on our own journeys, the highs, the doubts, the disciplines, and how we are finding our way back towards spirituality and religion. Whether you're deeply religious, loosely spiritual, or skeptical of it all, this isn't about preaching. It's about perspective. It's about tapping into the part of health most people ignore, but can't afford to. So let's get into it. Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. Happy Tuesday today.
Happy Tuesday. Sorry we missed you guys yesterday. We tried to record this with no success. Another ridiculous tech day. We wasted over an hour and just could not waste any more time. So changed nothing. We didn't change a single thing. We just tried again today and it magically works. Hooray, technology. Now, if you were about to tap out after that intro, I do want to just jump in quick before we take a step back and get a little casual for a second. But growing up, I have been very, I don't want to say anti-religion, but very much not in religion, not into the whole concept of it, the stories, just the whole buy-in and the philosophy, I guess. I've been turned off by the entire concept of going to church. And I will say over the past few weeks, month maybe, I've kind of been drawn towards it even before, the chaos that is our world kind of ramped up. I've been kind of seeing these little signs and kind of paying attention. And growing up, parents couldn't get me to go to church. Family was Christian. Me and my brother tried to go. I think I was more the problem and the reason we stopped. So it's just, again, something I'm not prone to dive into. I've been more turned on for the last few years, kind of with the concept of Buddhism and more so it being a philosophy, just be a good person, just support the concept of compassion and wanting the best for everyone around you rather than kind of really being all in on this specific ideology in a sense, I guess. But I have been drawn toward it lately. We've had some cool little signs sprinkled in throughout the day. So this isn't going to be preachy. We're going to lay down some science. We're going to explain our own journeys. And, whether you are all into religion, you're intrigued by it, a little bit curious, or even want to tap into the more spiritual side, not necessarily religion, there should be some nuggets in this episode for you today.
I also
I'm
think
excited.
if you're...
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go first.
I was just going to say, I also think if you're... I don't know, if this was me a few years ago when I was tuning into a podcast that was about to be like a faith-related podcast, as someone who's Jewish, I would probably have been like, bye, like not listening, don't care, don't need to hear you talk about Jesus, no offense. And it's interesting, the three of us chatted a little bit yesterday about our own kind of individual relationships with religion over the years and like how that transformed from when we were kids versus adults now having our own kids, what that looks like. And what I have seen recently is that there seems to be a shift where I feel like our generation was one of the generations that was getting really far from like religion and faith-based stuff and like breaking more of those traditions and not going the traditional route that a lot of us were like raised as. And in recent weeks, especially the last week or two, I think we're seeing more people step into their faith. And I think that's for a variety of reasons, but I think that entity in and of itself is worth having a conversation about. Like, why are we seeing people lean more into their religion or their faith right now, or just getting curious? Like Josh and I are both in this curiosity stage. Alessandra's a little farther along than Josh and I are. Josh and I are both in this, like, and I'm on the Jewish side, Josh is on the Christian side. And we're both
think. We're not sure.
I might actually be Christian and Josh might actually be Jewish. But we're both in this like pre-contemplation stage, right? Of like, my interest is piqued. I'm curious. I don't want to be totally removed from it, but I'm not fully there. And like for me personally, I started buying a bunch of new books and asking other Jewish friends for recommendations of what they recommend and like what types of Jewish text really resonate with them. And yeah, I think it's interesting like that more people right now are leaning into their faith or at least just getting more curious about it.
And being open about it. Like, I've never seen, I don't know if it's just like we talked about this too yesterday, Joelle. Like, I wasn't sure if it was just my algorithm showing me like so many more people just like posting their Bible or posting that they went to church or posting that they're just, I didn't even know that they were religious or faith oriented, I guess, at all. And I just feel like it's all over my social media everywhere. But I was like, is that just me? Because I'm seeking that out right now. But then you were like, no, it's all over mine
Like
too.
I'm Jewish and everyone's going to church on my feed.
So it's just super interesting. And I'm sure, I know obviously the events that occurred last week, there was a big pull, but I've even noticed it like prior to that, like Josh said, and I'm sure we'll go into detail of some stories and experiences we've had over the last few weeks too. But it's really cool to see. It's really empowering, and it kind of just opens the door, I feel like, for other people to explore that, which is what I hope we can give to you guys listening from this podcast, is just somewhere that we're not going to judge you and just share our experiences and share the benefits of it and all of the good stuff.
So I have a twofold question for you guys. Do we think this pull or this magnification, and to allude to Joelle's point, like it does seem like our generation has kind of pulled back a bit from that. So do we think there's been this pull because the world just feels really dark right now and we need a bright light to turn to? That's like the one side of it. Or do we feel like it's now gotten to a point where it's becoming more welcome on social media and less, what's the word here? Poo-pooed. I can't think of the actual word, but like less shot down, and like nobody cares about politics and prayer and meditation
like it's more
and
socially
spirituality.
acceptable.
Yeah, more socially acceptable. So do we feel like it's, man, shit feels dark right now and this is a bright light? Or do we think it's socially acceptable now to post that? Is a hybrid of both? Like what is the angle here?
I think if you asked me 2 weeks ago, I would have a different response as I do now. I think after the tragedies of last week, I think I would say if I had to pick one of those, I think it's starting with the world feels dark and heavy right now. And I think as humans, we always try to find logic in things, right? We're like, what is the meaning of this? Why is this happening? There has to be a purpose. Like, and when something awful happens and we all literally bear witness to it when we open up our phones, and we were never meant to see the types of tragedy that we saw across our phones last week. I think what ends up happening is when our logical brain can't make any sense of it, we're like, well, someone must know something. There must be something that can explain this. And I think that people maybe are not quick to say like God must know or Jesus must know, but like there must be some type of higher power. There must be something that can make sense of this. And I think that's a big reason of why we have seen, like, never mind that like Charlie Kirk himself, and we don't have to get super into this, but like never mind that Charlie Kirk himself was obviously very Christian and promoted faith a lot, but like I'm Jewish. Like I'm not converting to Christianity. That like specific message doesn't speak to me in that way. Yet I still had that same pull of like wanting to explore faith further. I think because of that heaviness and because of that darkness and because my logical brain can't make sense of it, then it's almost like this like spiritual brain is turned on, like, well, there's got to be something. There's got to be something to this. But then I do think that your second point about things snowballing on social media, you have more people sharing and then you have more people feeling encouraged and less people feeling scared. And maybe now they're going back to church for the first time or they're ordering the books or whatever it is. So I do think it's a combination of the two. I think it starts with the heaviness and then takes to social and then the social snowballs.
I agree 100% with everything you said. I think it's both. I think I mean, I think even just in my own journey of when we've been in dark places through all the infertility stuff, like I leaned on God during that time. It wasn't like how I'm leaning on him now, but like that was like my go-to. Like we did all the testing, we did all the things. There's no explanation for this. There must be a reason. And you kind of just look outward of you and outward of what you know in this world. And I think for me, like that definitely helped me get through that time. And I think no matter what the hard thing is, that's when a lot of people do turn to their faith to get them through the harder times. And I think now, being where I'm at now, being, like you said, Joelle, a little bit, I'm not necessarily in that exploration phase. Like I know where I'm at. Like I don't want to just lean on that during the hard times. And I think there's a lot of parallels to this with health and fitness too. Like how, because we're the same person.
I know. I was like, oh, I have a great fitness parallel when she's done talking. Go ahead.
Well, how many clients have come to us when they're like at their lowest low and they're just so fed up with how they feel, and you know, they are ready to just change and to just not accept where they're at anymore. And I feel like the parallel to that and to being in that low place mentally and spiritually, like you finally just get to a point where you're like, I need to just hand this over to the higher power, to the fitness coach, not saying that we are, you know, God over here. I just think there's a lot of similar mindsets that people have. And maybe that's something, if you're listening to this and you aren't very faith-based or spiritual or have never explored anything, maybe that's a connection point for you where you've been in this place and you aren't really sure how to get to that or just accept. I don't know where I'm going with that, but
it's faith in each other. Like what you just said, it's not like fitness gods. Obviously that was a joke, but like faith applies as faith. And it's, I need help. I need someone who has some answers that I don't have. So it's faith in each other, faith in our team of experts to take over that phase of your life. Hey guys, real quick. If you've been listening and thinking, I need to start doing something for my health, but I don't have time for a full program, that is literally why we built the SDE Method app. It's a fitness app made for real people with real lives. Busy parents, working professionals, anyone juggling 100 things. You can get a smart, effective workout in around 30 minutes, some even closer to 20 minutes, and log out knowing you made progress. You can finally take the guessing out of your workouts. We have workouts designed to be done at the gym or at home, and you get access to all of them when you sign up. As life phases change, you can pick a new one that aligns better with what you have going on right now. And one more thing, we are also qualified for HSA FSA reimbursement. So just hit the app link in the show notes, start where you are, we'll help with the rest. All right, let's get back to the show.
I think it's also like Josh and I have talked about before. I mean, more specifically, I would say on our like more functional health, holistic side of journey stuff. But also we talk about this with our clients. Like I remember someone recently asked on a Q&A, like, how do I get my husband involved? Like he doesn't feel good about his body. And it was like, when he gets uncomfortable enough and dissatisfied enough with the current state of being, he will turn to something else. And I feel like that's that same parallel that you're alluding to, Alessandra, of like, eventually you may hit a rock bottom and feel like, where do I turn now? And we see that with clients on the health and fitness side. But I also think that that's what is happening for people's deep dive back into faith, is like, they maybe got to this point where they're like, why do I feel like this? Why does this feel so awful? Why do I feel so hopeless? Why do I feel so helpless? And then they turn to that. And I think about your story too. I'm certainly not going to tell it for you, but I know you mentioned it previously on YouTube. But your story with Wes, like that was a huge turning point for you. I don't know that Josh and I have had our like ultimate turning point yet. And so it's like, have we just not hit our rock bottom? And that's why we're not like all the way there. Does shit have to really hit the
oh
fan?
shoot, what's coming?
But
don't
like
do that to me.
I don't want to call that
Don't
a rock.
do that. I can't handle that right now.
I don't want to call that a rock bottom for you, because it was obviously a really amazing moment and we're so blessed and we love that Wes is here. But like you had this pivotal moment for you. And I don't know if I've had that pivotal moment yet, but I've had something.
Yeah.
Something that hasn't entirely convinced me, but it's piqued my interest.
Yeah, and I've had those some things over the years, but again, it wasn't ever to the point where I was fully bought in. And I think, I mean, I guess we'll kind of go into our stories, and we're naturally doing that anyway. So,
Well, hang on. No, hang on. We're going to take a minute before we
okay,
get to that.
let Josh
Josh
take
is
it
mad
over.
that I said he has to hit rock bottom first. He's got to come back to
No,
that.
I'm not. And I was about to disagree to a point and be like, well, can't this be a growing sense? Like I've had these little signs sprinkled. And then like the other night, we're looking out at the full moon and I'm like, what? It was these two perfect bars.
Well, first, before we get there, we have to tell the story the right way, because obviously I have been in this. You've been kind of, I mean, maybe you haven't noticed, but like me reading my Bible, me reading more faith-based books before like you really even shared anything with me. And then one day I get a text, or yeah, I think you texted me because you were out somewhere and you got the mail.
No, before the mail was the song. Like it was a random playlist. And I think it was because you were listening to like one or two songs. But I'm like, I've been jamming to Christian rock for like 15 minutes and I just realized these are all Christian songs. And then the next, and that was kind of the beginning, not the beginning, but part of the beginning. And then the next week, it's like this giant picture of Jesus, like on the mail that I brought in. Like the one day I bring it up from the mailbox and I texted her a picture of that and I'm laughing about it.
And I responded to that and I was like, well, I've been like praying, like I've been praying to God, like send him a sign. Like I want him to be on this journey with me and dive deeper back into this. But I know that I can't be like, hey, go buy a Bible. Like I want you to do this, like similar to your husband wanting to pursue a fitness goal. Like I can't force him to do this. So I was literally just praying about it for probably a good week or two. And I told him, like, he sent me the picture of Jesus on the newspaper. And I was like laughing at that point because I know I've been praying about it, and I told him I've been praying for him to send you signs. So that was the first one, and then now you can tell the moon story because.
So we get ready for bed, and we always climb in, and I'll meditate, we'll read, whatever, and I look over. Windows are still open. It was beautiful out, so the windows are still open. It's a full moon, and there is this giant glimmering cross hovering over the moon, and it was not a glare on the window because it was through the screen. I'm like, and it wasn't even just like two running bars that just happened to be a giant T. Like the top bar was a little shorter and the middle bar, the vertical bar was a little longer. It was a perfect cross.
We have a photo of it. We'll share
Or
it.
Photo and it's actually glimmering in the photo and in the video. Like this cross is crazy. So I text our two family group chats and I'm like, do you guys like, are you guys seeing the moon like this? And like, nope, no Jesus moon over here. My dad is a Christian and he's like, I have chills. Like, I don't see it. He was on his motorcycle riding around looking at it. I'm like, stop. First of all, stop texting. I don't think he was texting. I'm like, stop looking at the moon and riding your bike. I'm like, ride. But I'm like, okay, that's weird. And my mom was like, I think he's doing something funky with this and just sending it over because it looks cool. So she thought the next day that I had just taken a picture of a glare through the window. I'm like, that wasn't through the window. You could actually see this thing. So I'm laughing about that. And I have a cross.
Well, you went outside. You went outside to look at it. And it wasn't.
You couldn't see it as clear outside. You could kind of see it a little bit, but something about like looking through the screen, it just highlighted those bars in the sky that you could just kind of barely see. So it was like, okay, this kind of feels like it's meant for me. I bought this necklace. If you're not watching, if you're listening, like 5-6 years ago with the cross, gold necklace, gold cross. And I had taken the cross off because I was again, not anti-religion, but I'm just like, I'm not into this. I'm into a higher power. I believe in higher power. I'm not sure where I fall on the religion spectrum. So that night, and I had touched it a couple of days before. And I'm like, no, I'm not there yet. That happened. I put this on. I'm like, all right, I'm listening. Went out, we got the kids, the Bible stories that we're now reading, like the kids version. So I'm learning about God and Jesus through these kids book as I'm reading to the kids. So yeah, that's I guess I just told my story. I wanted to circle back a little.
That's why I said it feels
things.
natural to just jump into our stories first, but we can circle back with the science at the end.
Okay.
Can we talk about the kids' books for a second? Because I want to highlight that. Because it's such a great example of how overwhelming it can feel to dive into something new or to feel like everyone else is miles ahead of you on a specific topic. And I actually love that you're like, hey, we bought these books for the kids, but I'm learning so much, because I would imagine to just open a Bible, you're like, I don't even understand what half of this means versus
That's
when
why
something
I've
is
never
like,
done it.
summed up and I don't want to say dumbed down, but like simplified in a children's book. And I actually think that's a really, really great strategy.
I agree. And I think, I mean, even me, like as somebody who's been to Sunday school, I've grown up in the church. I also, for anybody listening who didn't listen to my YouTube video, like grew up Catholic. It was more of a relationship with the church than a relationship with God is how I felt. And I kind of stopped. I got confirmation in 9th grade, and then I kind of stopped. Like I was in high school, I was like, all right, I'm not doing this anymore. Like I went for a few times for my siblings after that, and I really haven't been back since. And where was I going with that? Oh, the books. Was that what we were talking about? My brain. I'm having like a brain fart. The books. Yeah. So we got those for the kids, and I'm like, even though we're on this journey ourselves right now, I still feel like I'm at the point, and obviously Josh too, where we want to include them in this too. And you're right, Joelle, like it really does make it so much more approachable almost, because it's like, okay, I can take these bite-sized stories and pieces of information on a daily basis, read it to them, and then maybe you start reading the actual Bible and it feels more familiar because you've read the bite-sized pieces of info. But it is I've never read the Bible cover to cover. I don't even think I've read it in the way that I'm reading it now in pieces, like, because it does just feel like so much. It's a big book. It feels like, I mean, depending on what translation you get, it sometimes can feel very like you don't even know what they're saying. So I totally understand that aspect of it too. And I think, again, for anybody who's new and exploring anything, like you almost have to get the more simplified version first to really allow yourself to get bought in almost and to fully understand what you're reading. So I am with that also. Like, I love that.
There's also some podcasts. I found some additional resources, and like they'll read, I don't know if it's the whole thing front to back or like kind of in the beginning and skimming through to the end, but they'll read some verses and then explain what it meant to you or what it means to you, which has been helpful. Like I think it's called the Bible in a Year. So it's like a couple verses or a couple chapters, whatever they are. Then it's explained. That's day one. They do the same thing for an entire year to get through the whole thing. So I'm kind of reading the children's books. I'm listening to the podcast. I'm reading through it very slowly on my own, like I picked one up yesterday with the kids. So kind of finding my own footing, my own journey. And again, like, I don't know that I'm committed to this long term. Like Joelle said, like there hasn't been that moment, whether it is this one big thing or whether it is this slow buy-in where it just feels right. I'm in the slow buy-in. This feels right. We're on the right path kind of phase. Circling back, I was going to say that I disagreed. Like we didn't hit rock bottom. So we're not all in yet, but I was listening to someone, I think maybe it was just a clip from the Nick Bear podcast when he had a pastor on, but there's essentially this moment of surrender. So I don't know if it's a breaking point or rock bottom, but when you just kind of realize, okay, well, I am all in and I'm listening and I'm following this path no matter where this path leads me. So I don't know that it necessarily does need to be this tragic moment or this like, it hurts, things are hard right now and I don't know what else to do, so here's where I turn, versus like the slow build up. Okay, I'm all in and I fully surrender to whatever is going to take place going forward. Like this is the mission and wherever this guides me is where I'm going. So I've heard them talk about that a bit.
I have a question for Alessandra, only because you are further into this than I am. Do you find that any of the stuff that you're reading, have you blatantly disagreed with anything you've read?
Are you saying like in the Bible or just like anything faith related, or like in what context?
Any of it. I guess anything in the Bible or anything that you've seen a summary of. Is there anything that you're like, oh, that doesn't really like, I don't know if I like that, or like, I'm not sure that resonates with me. I think that's where I struggle. Like, I'm curious, but also I don't feel like I agree with everything. And does that mean I'm not bought in?
I wouldn't say that I disagree with anything. I would say there's things that I like for instance, a book I just finished is called The Circle Maker, and I don't know anything about the guy who wrote it, but he's basically a pastor and he owns a bunch of churches, and he tells all these stories about how essentially like you pray in circles over the really big things and dreams that you have. And he just shares a lot of stories that I don't necessarily resonate with. Like for instance, they were trying to buy this property in this church, and he would walk that neighborhood like every day and like pray in circles around it, and eventually it became theirs, and they got like a donation that match the exact amount that they needed to buy this property. It's not that I disagree or don't believe him, but I'm just like, I haven't seen that happen in my life yet. You know what I mean? Like, not in that exact scenario, but it's like there's a lot of these stories that almost feel unexplainable, I guess, which makes sense because it is God, but also like just so far removed from my life that I'm like, how? Like, what?
Right.
Like, almost that logical side of your brain that is like, this doesn't make sense, but it obviously happened to this person. So it's not that I disagree. It's just that I think I'm still a newbie. I'm still in the very beginning stages, but it's like I have so much to learn and so much to
You're still
understand.
a little skeptical too.
I wouldn't even say skeptical, but it's almost just like, I guess the word is skeptical.
I think
but
skepticism is healthy, like even from a broader sense, like not a specific person's experience, but like directly out of the stories in the Bible. That was kind of one of my first turnoffs, is like, okay, is this stuff like you're saying it all really did happen versus like this is a nice book to implement structure in society before laws. Like, oh, we have to fear something or we have to have something to work towards. And like that's kind of where I've been like, okay, this is neat, but then you're telling me all these things really did happen and they might be like painted a little bit differently than the actual events, but like you're saying every single one of these happened, and I don't know that I'm bought in on that. And again, like a lawless society, I think that having religion that preaches positive morals, like that's great. That was a great idea, whoever came up with that, if that's how it came through. Versus, okay, all these things happen and someone documented for the study of this specific religion. That's where I've struggled for a long time.
Well, I think a lot of that is just not having the education that other people may have about, because I feel like people talk about the Bible like kind of how you're talking about it, but I know that there's no other book. I think Charlie Kirk, actually, I saw a video that he was talking about this, and I don't remember exactly what he said, but there's no other book out there that so many people have said is true. Like it's not just like somebody wrote this book and put it out there and everybody reads this book. Like these stories have lots of people vetting the accuracy and the truth of them. So I think for us, and I think for me too, Josh, like it's a lot of it is we still just don't know a lot. Like we're still learning so much about it. This is still so new to us. So we almost can't even explain it because we don't have that education behind it yet. Does that make sense?
Listen, if you're tired of the all or nothing cycles, the diet starts Monday, the I know what to do, I'm just not doing it feeling, we should probably talk. Our one-on-one online coaching isn't just about workouts and meal plans. It's about building something that actually fits your life. No cookie cutter templates, no guilt, just real coaching and real results. Plus, we've got a pretty big team, so we can even pair you with an expert who actually understands your lifestyle because they've gone through it too. If that sounds like what you've been missing, check out the link in the show notes to apply for coaching. Then we'll send you the link to book a free, no obligation consult call with our team. There are no hard closes. We won't even take your credit card over the phone. You'll get the details to sign up on your own time. And more good news, we are in fact qualified for HSA FSA reimbursement. One last thing, we even offer a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you have nothing to lose. What are you waiting for? Spots are limited, so apply today. All right, let's get back to the show.
That's fair.
Yeah,
I think,
that's fair.
Josh, I think what you're getting to also is kind of similar to how I feel of like, so I'm just supposed to open up this rule book and abide by its laws and its rules when, like, generally speaking, that's not how we particularly function. Like, we are very much like, we make our own rules and we march
Blaze
to the
your
beat
own
of our
trail.
own drum. And it's like, I'm supposed to just open this and be like, okay, yeah, this is my new rules of life. And it feels like conflicting, like morally conflicting in a way.
Yeah, well, that's part of one of the things I actually did read or listen to specifically to Christianity was like, some of this may not seem directly morally wrong, but you're told not to do. And it's specifically to follow, and I might be butchering this part, but specifically to just obey the command. Like I said, to do this or to not do this. And it's not that it was morally wrong, but you were just supposed to listen. And that's the end of that. I have a hard time since I was a kid.
Who told you that? Where did you hear that? And what were they referring to is what I want to know.
I'm trying to think of it. I think this was on the podcast. So again, I could be butchering that second part, but he references something that was in the Bible. and he just kind of in passing, it might not have been the direct quote, but he's kind of explaining the concept of Christianity. He's like, this might not seem like at face value like that's a bad thing to do. And
it's the idea of obeying something without questioning it.
Yes, exactly.
It doesn't say well. Yeah.
Exactly. Don't question it. Just this is the way it is, and
obey. Which I just hate that word to begin with, and it's all across religious text.
But in my
devil's
genes,
advocate.
That's my parents. Like, that is how I grew up. Like, you're not just going to tell me, since I was a little kid, you're not just going to tell me something without a logical explanation for it. I am that difficult dude just since day one. So like that, and I understand there does have to be, okay, you're buying in. Like Santa Claus, you're not going to see it. You're just going to believe it, and you're going to follow these rules.
You cannot compare God to Santa Claus.
Okay,
you're gonna have people coming at you.
I'm going to get cracked on that one. I did not mean it that way. I just mean I'm going to get my ass beat. I'm going to get jumped.
You're going to mute your mic right now. Yeah, and I think
like devil's advocate, Alessandra.
Ultimately what you're saying is you're not bought in yet, and I stand by what I said. You're not bought in yet because we don't have the full scope, the full knowledge. We have never read the full Bible, and I think part of that for us will come with going to church and hearing your leader, your pastor, explain these things to you deeper and get the full picture of in the context and the nuance of all of the things. And I think, again, to parallel this to fitness, like it's the same thing. Like if you're going to go write a training program and you don't have any experience, and it's like everyone's telling me to do progressive overload, but who says that's the right way? You're not fully bought into it because you've never done it before and you don't understand the full big picture of it. So I think for us, a lot of that will be helped in helping us grow with this by going to church and learning from somebody who does have that knowledge and that wisdom and can explain it to us and teach us and guide us in the way that we need. And I think, I mean, the whole church thing, like as far as community, I feel like we need it. As far as just, again, learning all of this as somebody new to religion really is what it is for us. Because I can tell you right now, like there are very few things I remember from Catholic church just because I wasn't bought in. I was tuned out. I went because I had to go with my family, and it was just like you sit there and wait till it's over kind of thing. So I think it really is almost like learning a new language. It's this new chapter, and we're really just becoming a new version of ourselves through this. And I think you do have to have some trust in the process and trust God in a sense there, but it's also for us and the way we operate is going to be a learning experience and embracing that too. So I think that is a big piece of this rather than just reading it on our own.
I need to make sure everyone understands I'm fully walking back that statement. I was simply stating in a lot of Christmas movies, like you hear seeing isn't believing. And that was the only point I was driving home. I was not comparing God to Santa Claus. Don't go throw me off a bridge. That was what I was getting at. Not the comparison.
I knew what you were getting at, for the record.
Thank you, Joelle, but 90% of others did not. Take over. You haven't really told your side and coming up and
me,
where you're at and how you got there and where you drifted.
Yeah, so similar to Alessandra, I was also had to go to Hebrew school twice a week, like basically from elementary school age up until age 13 when you get bar or bat mitzvahed, which I was bat mitzvahed. You go to Hebrew school twice a week and you learn Hebrew and you learn about Judaism, but very similar to like Sunday school or religion class where like you go, you're like, this is stupid. I don't care. I'd rather be hanging out with my friends. And you leave, and that's the end of it. And then like you got bat mitzvah, you did your big Torah reading, you got this great big party, and you're like, cool, that's the end of it, really. And probably similar in like maybe like after that, we didn't go, like I didn't go to synagogue every Saturday morning the way people might go to church every Sunday morning. And same with my husband. He's like, I haven't been in a church since my confirmation. Like he was confirmed at whatever age, it's around 13, isn't it?
Yeah, well, 9th grade.
Okay, yeah, 13, 14. Haven't been in a church since then. And it's interesting. For a few years after that, I would still attend synagogue on the high holidays, which are like the major Jewish holidays, Passover, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. Those are some of the big ones. Hanukkah is like the least important holiday for anyone listening. It just gets a lot of attention because it's around Christmas. But I noticed that once I was no longer living home with my parents, I was no longer like going to services, no longer going to synagogue for the high holidays. I think my parents and my upbringing were a big part of like why I stayed as rooted in it as I was. But every time I went, I was like, this is stupid. Don't like it. Doesn't resonate. Don't want to be here. Would rather be elsewhere. It just never really resonated with me, which is why I think it's so interesting that now in my adulthood, like 20 years later, literally, at least since my bat mitzvah, that I'm like, maybe they were onto something. And my parents have been to Israel several times. My dad has been taking Hebrew classes for years so that he could learn to speak fluent Hebrew. And they have been very called to their Judaism in more recent years, specifically since like October 7th stuff. There's a lot of Jews that are feeling more called to their faith, as like we're seeing a huge rise in anti-Semitism and anti-Israel rhetoric. And you see a lot of Jews feeling more called to like represent their faith. And so I've had that the last few years of like a little bit more curiosity, a little bit more like want to step into that faith. And yeah, then like the last few weeks has happened and I'm like, So
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you think that, and I have my personal answer here too, do you think being a parent and having kids has influenced this at all? Or is it more so an internal for you?
For me, it's internal, I would say. I think it's funny. Kids have obviously impacted a lot of different things in my life. I don't actually think that they have specifically impacted this. For me, this feels more about my own spiritual journey. I'm obviously in an interfaith marriage. Like technically Brant is Christian and I am Jewish. We had an interfaith wedding. We had a priest and a rabbi at our wedding marrying us, Hebrew portion, English portion, like the whole thing. And we have always kind of had this conversation of like, when it comes to our kids, we want to teach them about both. We want to teach them about both religions. And if they feel called or gravitated toward one or the other, we want them to make that choice for themselves. And we don't want them to feel forced into religion as a child, because I think both of us felt forced into like, you're supposed to be in church, you're supposed to be in synagogue, like this is what you're supposed to be doing. And that's, I feel like, what really turned both of us off. So when it comes to our kids, we have always kind of taken the interfaith route of like, let's expose them to all of it, and whatever resonates, resonates. Like, let's not force it. Brant's the first one as a Christian even to be like, if our girls love Judaism and they want to be bat mitzvahed, like hell, let's take them to Israel and let's get them bat mitzvahed in Israel. Like he is full send, when it comes to that, but is also like, let's do our due diligence in educating them as much as we can on both sides of the coin. But we haven't gotten deep enough into, and I think I was asking you this yesterday about like with where Josh is at, like, would you guys all go to church? Like, would you feel comfortable and ready, Josh, to go to church? Because I am starting to think about like, well, if I get to a point where I now want to go to synagogue on Saturdays, I don't know that I'm going to get Brant to go. And I also need to have a conversation with my husband. I mean, we've obviously talked about this, but like, it hasn't gotten to the point where it's like, hey, I'm ready to go to synagogue. Do I bring the kids? We haven't had that conversation because I'm not there yet anyway. But that will be an extra kind of communication factor and process for us in our marriage and navigating faith with our kids of like, hey, if one of us is leaning more into our faith, like, what do you do on the flip side for the kids if we're trying to take the both route? So I don't know if that answers your question at all. I don't feel like the kids have specifically impacted this, but they're going to be impacted by my lean into this, if that makes sense.
Makes total sense. I feel similarly. Like it started with me, and I feel like I'm at the point now where, similar to fitness too, like we don't ever want to force them into anything, but we are gonna, like, we were invited to church by our neighbors yesterday, and I would love to go and try it out and go church shopping, if you will, and do it. Like, we operate under the idea that we do mostly everything as a family, and it's not going to be something where I'm going to go to church by myself, where we always try to do things that includes the kids, and we're talking about it. And I think the biggest thing is they're obviously little right now, so they're going to be coming with us, but I don't want it to ever feel the way that it felt for me. And I think a lot of that also is making it about more than just the church, reading the Bible, reading our morning devotional with the kids in the morning, and talking about God and talking about heaven, and, educating them in a lead by example way versus this is how it is. This is what you're going to do. This is what you're going to believe. This is just part of our life. This is how we talk and how we just introduce it to them that way, which I think my parents did try to do and did a good job with, but it was just, I think it's just a different generation. Like, we will be going to a non-denominational church, which is much different than a Catholic church, and it's just completely a different approach, sort of. So I just wanted to highlight that aspect of, it's not going to be we're going to church, it's all about church. Church is supplemental to what we teach our kids about God and the Bible at home, is my take.
I agree with both of you. I think it starts internally and then it goes to the kids. As far as going to church, I'm open. Again, I don't know how long that will last. If I'm continued to be pulled toward this path, I'll keep going. And if I'm all in, then I'm all in. But again, like, I've been outside of religion my entire life, but I do feel like I've been connected to a higher power. And I would say, like, I'm downloading from the universe. So I'd be thinking about a concept and, like, it would kind of continue to marinate in my mind, and then it would come out as this full-fledged thing. And that's kind of been my conversation with this higher power, with whatever this is, this connection to something. I do believe in something. Whether that aligns with Christianity or not is what we're here finding out. But that is the channel and the groove that I'm settling into right now. And it feels like the right place. It will be that until it feels otherwise. So that was the journey.
So that's where we're at.
We kind of did this backwards, but I do want to give some little nuggets. We were going to start this off and get you hooked into the benefits before we told the stories. So hopefully we hooked you into the stories and now you're sticking around for the benefits. But when it comes to science and spirituality, here are some things to think about when it comes to your health. So longevity and well-being stats. We'll fire some off at you. People who attended religious or spiritual gatherings live 4 to 14 years longer on average. This is a study by JAMA in 2016. Regular religious or spiritual involvement is also linked to lower blood pressure, reduced inflammation, and better immune function. Lower depression, anxiety, and suicide rates are also strongly correlated with religious or spiritual practices, particularly those involving community engagement and regular prayer and meditation. And this is something just from the community aspect that we've kind of been aware of more recently. But now we're going to kind of separate them a little bit when it comes to mindfulness, something that I've been very active in, versus actual prayer. And this is from a neuroscience angle. So mindfulness meditation has been shown to increase prefrontal cortex activity, so focus, self-regulation, and it reduces amygdala activation, which is that fear and stress center. Now, prayer, to differentiate, this is more active. So prayer, especially in intercessory or gratitude-based prayer, activates similar neural pathways plus reward circuitry. So that's going to be dopamine and oxytocin also. Some studies also suggest that active prayer may offer greater social emotional benefits compared to secular mindfulness, especially in religious individuals. So actually, when we say active prayer, like essentially praying to God versus focusing on your breathing, doing breath work and mindfulness and being specifically in the moment. So they're similar pathways, but they're activated slightly differently based on that more religious intention in a sense. A lot of this too, so you talk about decreases in depression, anxiety, a lot of this does have to do with that behavior. And it's one of those things you talk about in scientific studies, like, okay, well, this thing, is it really causation or is it correlation? Is this person who's more involved in these activities more likely to be active in other activities? So things like exercising regularly, avoiding risky behaviors, having a more consistent routine, and having a more robust community. Those could all be side benefits of being involved in a religious community and in a religious environment. So whether it is directly attributed to being religious, to being involved in prayer, that is certainly up for debate. But there are some byproducts that are heavily correlated that raise a lot of positive potential aspects in our health. So I know we've discussed meditation plenty. I've obviously been on the cold plunge train. There's been some spiritual aspects to our conversations in the past, but we have we have never pulled in the religious side of things. And there's another point to this that we weren't probably going to bring up today, but it has been brought up throughout this episode. So some of you may be asking those questions. This specific episode, this is not in response to what happened with Charlie Kirk specifically. On that same day, there was a school shooting. Similar timeline. Obviously, there were people in the Democratic Party, a husband and a wife, and I think their dog also murdered. This is not speaking up or against any of those things that have happened. But I do want to address them because we did specifically reference Charlie Kirk a couple times throughout this episode, and I don't want this to be skewed any way, shape, or form. So we're gonna lay it all out. Killing is bad. We should all be able to agree on that in the most basic sense, and even just putting a story up on that, there was pushback, and you've seen that pushback. You listeners have seen that across social media. And this isn't to discount the murder of anybody. Charlie Kirk, the senators, the children, obviously. What I believe triggered so many people to speak up directly on the Charlie Kirk event specifically. It was in your face. Like, people saw it when you didn't even want to see it. That video was just there and it's unseeable. On top of that, the reaction of so many, and I won't say the majority. We had a conversation about this in private this week when we were kind of processing everything. Social media is an echo chamber, so it does seem like small numbers are significantly larger, but there were a lot of people, and there were a lot of public-facing figures who made disgusting and continue to make disgusting comments, and that is unacceptable. Whether you're left, right, green, blue, orange, black, or white, that is unacceptable as a human being. So the reason people were speaking up, and I understand it. This is where I want to come from, a place of understanding and frustration. You didn't speak up on the school shootings, and you didn't speak up on the senators being killed. I didn't see, and it wasn't pumped into my face because I don't watch the news. It's so disgusting, and mainstream media needs to be canceled. I don't watch it. So it's the short blips that I do get from these other platforms. I didn't see this disgusting reaction, supporting death and murder and cheering it on and well-deserved and literally clapping and laughing. I didn't see that from anybody else when all these other events happened. So should every event be spoken upon and paid tribute towards, in a sense, but a lot of times we do that internally and we process that in our own ways internally.
I was going to say, I have thoughts on that. As somebody who has a public platform and is an influencer, if you will, we cannot and should not have to speak about every event, tragic or not tragic, that occurs. That is not my job. I am not a politician. I am not somebody who has knowledge of every event out there. I think and Joelle, we talked about this. One of the reasons why this one really hit home for so many is because we saw our husband in Charlie. That is somebody who's our age. They're a dad of young kids. And again, are there plenty of other things we can and have in the past touched on here and there? Yes, but it is also not my job to touch on every single tragic event or feel like I have to process that in a public-facing way. With that, I was giving my babies a bath and decided to post my thoughts about Charlie Kirk. And just because I thought about his kids who wouldn't get a bath from him that night. So it's just something I was able to relate to in the moment. But I think it is wrong to place creators and people who have platforms on this pillar that they should be acting as almost like president or somebody who has all of the answers in regard to all of these events. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it doesn't mean you're not processing each one of those events personally. Yeah. You still have obviously strong emotions and sadness and heartbreak that everything goes through. And we do that every single time. It's like, you don't react to these of course we react to school shootings. We're homeschooling now because of this shit. This is the world we live in, and I don't want to say terrifying because I don't want to give power to the other negative evil power that lives. I'm not going to say the other side, but this hovering dark cloud, I won't give power to that and say that we're terrified. But we are making different decisions because it starts with us. So we process every little bit of it. The outrage that sparked public facing comments is that everyday individuals are allowing this evil to be absorbed into their minds and to do or support and condone despicable acts that are not okay to perform against your worst enemy. It is not your right to decide whether somebody lives or dies. And if you don't have a compassionate response, then just don't respond, because whether you realize it or not, you are creating more evil in others because they then see support for those things. And that is not okay. And we cannot live in that place. So we are making changes on a personal level. We are grieving every horrific, tragic incident that continues to happen. And we're figuring out how to change the world. Like, those are the things that we are quietly doing. But I don't want people to think that we speak up only when someone that they despise, something happens to them and they despise them for specific disagreements. And those are the things that we'll continue to speak up on, because whoever is pulling the chains and pulling the strings behind the scenes, they don't want you talking about that. They want this echo chamber to get louder and louder and louder. So that vast minority of evil sounds more heightened, and we can't allow that.
I want to talk about that echo chamber for a minute with just a reminder that everyone's Instagram feeds right now are an echo chamber of what they give the most attention to, right? But because that algorithm and that feed is curated to what you're sending, what you're liking, what you're watching, what you're repeat watching, etc., that also means that we are all being fed different realities. And I think that is a really, really important reminder for people. Because if you are seeing the same things on your feeds and you are outraged that someone could be thinking a different way than you or have the polar opposite beliefs of you, I want you to remember that their feed is filled with all the people saying the things that they want to hear and that they think is the norm and that they think is the status quo. And I think it's something that's so important about, like, when all of this was happening, I was like, I just have to get off social media because I am feeling so many emotions that I'm only feeling because of what I'm seeing on my phone. And that's when I'm like, get out, take myself to the beach, go stick my feet in some sand, go touch some grass, because my phone is getting all of these emotional responses out of me that are maybe not serving me, maybe serving me in some ways and not serving me in others. But I just think it's a really important reminder that everyone is kind of living in a different reality based on what's in their feed. And so if you start, looking into whatever tragedy, maybe you start looking into school shootings, your whole feed will be about school shootings. When the October 7th stuff happened, my parents, they thought someone was going to show up to their house and kill them because their whole feeds were like anti-Semitic, anti-Jew stuff. And that was their reality. And they're like, Joelle, I don't know how you're functioning. Like, don't you see all of this, the Jewish hate and this and that in the news? And I'm like, no, because that's not on my feed. And I'll leave it at that. I think it's a really important reminder for people that we all have different feeds and different algorithms. And that feed's job is to make you think that you are in this echo chamber of everyone else thinks like you. And that is actually really dangerous.
It is. And social media can be a very beautiful place. It can also be a very dark place. And just to put a little hammer on the stamp over there, what you just said, you can make something look, sound, and feel entirely different given the minimal context that exists in 30 seconds. You can make we talk about all the time, scientific studies. You can take the same study, pull the pieces that you want, and make the point that you want to make. The same thing exists 1,000-fold on social media.
That's like we could take 5 clips from this episode of Josh talking about Santa Claus. I mean, we can pull things out of context so easily in taking these clips and with the mindset of, oh, this is going to go viral on social media. And that is how they rope you in. that is why we don't go viral on social media, because we are too in the middle. We are too nuanced about most things. So I want to remind you guys too, like, that is the purpose of most of these viral clips, is to get you to react and to feel a certain way about something, even if that viral clip wasn't actually what happened. It likely isn't what that person said in full context. So I just want to remind you of that too, as a creator and as somebody who is on the backside of the screen here. Along with what you said, Joelle, like, get out, talk to people in your community, talk to your friends, talk to your family, go to church if you're called to go to church. Like, you're not going to feel any better from taking more in on social. You're going to feel better from talking with the people in real life, in your life. I guarantee you.
Real humans, real people, real connections. I think social media has made us desensitized, and like, we've dehumanized people. We've become desensitized to opening your phone and seeing someone get stabbed in the neck, opening your phone and seeing someone get shot in the neck. Like, whoa, that's a lot. That's a lot to process. Then school shootings. This was all like the same 2 days that was just tragedy after tragedy after tragedy after tragedy. And I think the moment you start feeling anything that is anything other than what Josh said of murdering people's not okay, anything that is the opposite of that thought tells me you're on your phone way too much.
You got some healing to do internally before we can heal the rest of the world.
Yep. And on that note, it starts with us. I posted about this yesterday. Everything we do, everything we say, the ways we take care of ourselves, the way we speak to ourselves, the way we speak to other people, all of it ripples. Everything is a ripple effect. When I go to the gym, I feel better. When I feel better, I'm more patient with my kids. When I'm more patient with my kids, they're happier at school. How does that affect their teachers? How does that affect the other kids in the class? How does that affect them when they go home to their families? Everything ripples. Make sure your ripple is doing good.
You got something?
I was just going to say amen. That's it. That's the statement, Joelle. That's really what this comes back around to. Take care of your mental health, take care of your physical health, take care of your spiritual health. It all matters so greatly. And if we want to change our families, if we want to change our communities, if we want to change the world, which we are going to try to change the world over here, as Josh has said many times.
There's no try in that statement.
We are changing the world over here. It has to start with you. There's no other way to do it.
And I feel like that was way too powerful to wrap up with a health and fitness message. But in that sense, you look at the state of the world physically is basically a perfect depiction of how things are going internally. We're not healthy mentally or physically. So it's the little things we can do every single day. Don't have to overhaul your lifestyle. Doesn't take much. Just get moving, create some positive momentum, and see what that does to you internally, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. It's all symbiotic. So with that, we are going to wrap up this conversation with the reminder that change doesn't come in one big moment. It's built in the ways you keep showing up. Take what you learned today and build the best version of yourself for tomorrow. Where can they find you?
I'm at Alessandra Skutnik.
At Joelle Samantha.
I'm at Josh Skutnik.
And everything else you need is linked in the show notes.